Welcome to Vetted, the channel dedicated to exploring the unexplained and sharing real accounts of the unknown. Today, we journey back to a quiet afternoon in rural Norway over 7 decades ago for a truly astonishing and incredibly intimate close encounter witnessed by 3 young girls. This is the captivating testimony of Ann Stordal, who was 10 years old, her sister Tora, and their friend Tora Moy, both age 9. On a seemingly ordinary school day in Torpo, 1955, their path home transformed into a stage for an otherworldly event. They found themselves face to face with an enigmatic spherical craft and its perplexing occupant. Their collective experience, a vivid snapshot from a time often considered the golden age of UFO sightings, remains an enduring testament to the bewildering reality of the unexplained, etched into their memories with startling clarity. School had just let out for the day, and the crisp, invigorating air of 1955 hung over Torpo, a small, picturesque village nestled amidst the stunning valleys and towering mountains of Norway. For Ann Stordal, 10 years old, her sister Tora, and their friend Tora Moy, both aged 9, the afternoon ritual was a familiar and comforting one. The walk home from school. The path was a winding country road, unpaved and dusty, flanked by fields turning golden with autumn and distant, dark green forests climbing the hillsides. They were likely chattering, their young voices bubbling with laughter, sharing stories from their day. Maybe a particularly challenging math problem, a funny incident with a classmate, or plans for after-school play. Their school bags, perhaps simple canvas sacks or worn leather satchels, might have bumped rhythmically against their backs as they walked. The sounds would have been typical for a rural afternoon. The distant bleating of sheep, the chirping of birds settling into the trees, perhaps the faint, far-off hum of a tractor. It was an ordinary moment for 3 ordinary children, entirely unaware that the vast cerulean sky above them was about to open up to something profoundly extraordinary. Something that would defy all the comforting logic of their young lives. As they walked, their eyes scanning the familiar surroundings, or perhaps lost in the innocent depths of their conversation. One of them, likely Anne, with her slightly older and perhaps more observant gaze, noticed at first a small black dot in the distant sky. It appeared as nothing more than a tiny speck at first, easily dismissed by any adult as a bird, a distant airplane, or even a trick of the light. But then its behavior instantly rendered it unnatural, impossible. This little black dot didn't drift idly. It moved with a purpose, a chilling, deliberate acceleration that shattered any mundane explanation. It zoomed down with impossible speed and precision, growing larger with every passing second. Its trajectory was direct, unerringly aimed towards their precise location, accelerating with a velocity that defied any known earthly craft of the era. The initial distant observation quickly transformed into an immediate, breathtaking descent that seized all 3 girls' terrified and bewildered attention, pulling their focus away from everything else. The object decelerated just as impossibly fast, coming to an abrupt, silent halt. It wasn't miles away, or even hundreds of feet. It hovered only a few feet overhead, so close, in fact, that they could likely feel its immense presence, could almost imagine reaching up and touching its surface if they had dared. The girls could now see it with stunning, undeniable clarity. It was a strange, perfectly spherical craft. Its surface was uniformly dark, a deep matte hue that seemed to absorb all light, making it appear almost as a void in the sky rather than a solid object. It was non-reflective, utterly seamless, without a single rivet, joint, window, or any visible means of propulsion. It didn't hum, it didn't vibrate. It simply hung there, defying gravity, utterly, chillingly silent. The only sound in that moment was their own accelerated, ragged breathing, their young hearts pounding frantically against their ribs, a chaotic counterpoint to the absolute stillness above. The air itself seemed to grow heavy, charged with the inexplicable. And then, as their wide, disbelieving eyes struggled to comprehend the impossible craft hanging just above them, they focused on its interior. Through what appeared to be a clear, perhaps dome-like, section, or a singular viewing port on its underside, they saw him. Inside was a tiny man dressed in black. He was remarkably small, perhaps the stature of a very young human child, yet his proportions and the way he held himself suggested an adult, a fully formed being. His clothing was a uniform, dark black garment, simple and unadorned, contributing to his almost silhouetted appearance within the sphere. The black fabric seemed to cling to his form, revealing a slender, almost delicate physique. His presence was undeniable, his form distinct and utterly alien. Most chillingly, he was staring directly at them. His gaze was fixed, unwavering, intense, and unblinking. His eyes, though dark and perhaps large in proportion to his small face, conveyed an undeniable, palpable awareness of their presence. It wasn't a gaze of malice, nor one of overt curiosity. It was one of profound, silent observation, almost clinical in its intensity. 3 terrified girls, rooted to the spot on a quiet, rural Norwegian road, found themselves locked in a silent, unblinking exchange with a tiny, black-clad figure from an impossible, hovering sphere. The profound silence of the craft, combined with the unnerving intensity of his direct gaze, created an almost unbearable tension. Every minute detail of his small, dark form, framed by the strange, spherical vessel, would have imprinted itself indelibly on their young, impressionable minds, a visual memory too stark to ever fade. The encounter was a snapshot in time, a moment suspended between the ordinary walk home and the utterly extraordinary. The girls, despite their surging fear, were mesmerized, held captive by the sheer impossibility of the scene unfolding above them. Their childhood minds, still fresh and open to wonder, yet grounded in the reality of their small village, were forced to grapple with a reality that defied every storybook, every lesson learned in school, every experience they had known. The tiny man in black was not a fictional character from a distant land. He was real, here, now, in their sky, a few feet above their heads. His silent presence was a profound challenge to their understanding of the very fabric of existence. They couldn't run, couldn't scream. They were simply frozen, observers to an event no one would ever believe. The crisp autumn air now felt colder, imbued with an unearthly chill. Then, as abruptly and silently as it had arrived, the sphere moved. The small black dot that had zoomed down with such terrifying speed now zoomed upwards again, with the same impossible velocity. It became smaller and smaller, rapidly receding into the vastness of the clear Norwegian sky, until it simply vanished completely, leaving no trace, no lingering contrail, no sound. The sudden, absolute absence of the craft, the breaking of that intense, silent connection, would have left a vacuum in the air, a profound silence where impossible technology had just hovered moments before. The mundane world rushed back in, feeling starkly different after what they had just witnessed. The girls would have stood there, perhaps for long minutes, their bodies finally released from their trance, but their minds reeling, trying to comprehend what had just unfolded. The familiar road, the autumn trees, the distant houses, everything would have seemed the same, yet irrevocably, fundamentally changed. The encounter was real, not a shared dream or a momentary delusion. They had all seen it, collectively witnessed the impossible in broad daylight. This wasn't a distant light or an ambiguous object that could be mistaken for an airplane. This was a close-up, undeniable interaction with an alien craft and its sentient occupant. The shared nature of their experience cemented its reality, making it impossible for any one of them to dismiss it as a mere figment of imagination. For Anne Stordahl, her sister Tora, and their friend Tora Moy, that autumn afternoon in 1955 would become a singular, defining memory, a pivotal moment in their lives. It was a secret they shared, a powerful bond forged in the immediate, terrifying yet awe-inspiring presence of the unknown. How do you explain such an event to parents or teachers in a small, rural Norwegian village in the 1950s? How do you articulate the chilling reality of a tiny man in black staring at you from a silent, hovering sphere? It's likely they struggled with how to process it, possibly even deciding, consciously or unconsciously, to keep the full, astonishing extent of the details to themselves. A private shared truth existing outside the realm of everyday conversation. Decades later, as adults, the vividness and consistency of that encounter would undoubtedly remain, an unshakable and irrefutable testament to the day the inexplicable descended upon a quiet Norwegian village, leaving 3 young girls forever changed by what they saw in the sky. Their story, though not widely documented, stands as a potent reminder of the personal reality of close encounters. The Torpo sighting, as recounted by Anne Stordahl, her sister Tora, and their friend Tora Moy, offers a unique and compelling perspective on close encounters involving humanoids. The specific details, the perfectly spherical craft, its incredibly low hover, and especially the precise description of the tiny man dressed in black, make this a distinctive and haunting case in the annals of UFO lore. What are your thoughts on this astonishing childhood testimony? Have you heard of similar sightings involving very small, black-clad humanoids or spherical craft hovering at such low altitudes? Share your insights and experiences in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Vetted for more true encounters, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next upload. Let's keep the conversation going